Well, good evening, everybody. We are here once again on Syracuse Basketball Postgame. My name is Brent alongside my colleague Mike Curtis from syracuse.com. We're here presented by our friends at Krause Health, and we are coming off the heels of a grinder at the Carrier Dome, a game that was scheduled with 2 days' notice. It'd basically be like if I called up Mike, he'd be like, hey, I want to come over and play some hoops. Okay, 3 o'clock. Good, let's go. That's basically what Jim Boeheim did after Saturday's win over Boston College. And Mike, what a contrast this game was to that one. Syracuse beats Boston College Saturday 101-63, 5 guys in double figures, nearly 7. They couldn't miss. Boston College pretty disinterested in playing defense in that game. Quite a difference today as Syracuse has to grind one out against Northeastern. 62-56 was our final score.
Yeah, this game was not pretty. It was definitely a contrast from the game against Boston College, and you could tell pretty quickly that the Orange had trouble shooting. They had just made a program record 16 threes. Today they finished with just 2. That's a complete 180, and they're going to need to get it together before they get back into ACC play.
Yeah, we'll go over some stats here shortly, but I'd like to welcome our friends who are watching on Facebook. And keep in mind, we're now also on YouTube, our Syracuse Orange Sports YouTube page. So if you can catch us live there on either format, that's terrific. But this does archive, and it will go up on our YouTube page, Syracuse Orange Sports. I always put it in my recap on syracuse.com as well. So great to be here with our second show in the new format, now on YouTube in addition to Facebook, and we'll get over to Twitter one of these days as well. So, Mike, you mentioned the contrast of three-point shooting. They hit 16 threes. A record against Boston College, just 2 on the day, and boy, was it an ugly day shooting-wise for the Orange, but there were a couple standout performances. So what do you say we start with a couple positive notes, Mike? Joe Girard, 21 points on the day, and what really stands out there is he had 6 steals on the defensive end, and that's been the big question mark about Joe at the top of the zone, whether or not he still lets defenders or lets offensive players get by him, I should say, but he was going after it, jumping passes, looked like a cornerback out there today, jumping routes, ends up with 6 steals on the day, goes 2 of 9 from three-point range, had to grind out those 21 points, 5 of 16 from the field, but as Uncle Brent likes to say, free throws matter. 9 of 9 at the free throw line today. The other real standout player for Syracuse was Quincy Guerrier. 18 points, 16 rebounds. He kind of started slow. Northeastern was doing a really nice job boxing out and keeping Syracuse away from the offensive boards. Eventually, Quincy Guerrier had enough of that. And Marek Dolzaj ends up with 14 points on the day. 7 of 13 shooting, Mike. And you know what? He actually could have been a lot better. He missed a few bunnies, a few easy ones around the bucket, but it was really those 3 that stood out for Syracuse today.
Yeah, let's be real, Brent. This game would not have been in Syracuse's favor if it wasn't for Quincy Guerrier and Joe Girard. Guerrier did pretty much everything on the inside for the Orange, far as rebounding, driving to the rim, defending. And Girard was really that offensive spark that they needed without Buddy Boeheim and Alan Griffin. I really think that Joe Girard plays well when he's alongside Buddy Boeheim, but maybe it's taken a little bit of time to get both of them clicking at the same time.
It's interesting because Buddy Boeheim came back Saturday. That was his first game back, and in a way, it looked like he had never left. He had a couple of early shots, was in rhythm. Not the case today. I like the comment here from Jamie, who says, can we just talk about Quincy the whole time? And I'd love to. The way he's playing, he's dominating. 6 games for Syracuse. Every one of them, he's been in double figures. He's rebounding. He is just, making his case to be the most improved player in the ACC overall. But I mentioned Boeheim there a moment ago. 1 of 12 shooting the ball, 0 of 3 from three-point range. Just not a good shooting day for him. He only scores 2. I think Kadary Richmond had a nice lift off the bench. He had 5 points. He had a terrific defensive play in the second half. Woody Newton didn't really get it going on the offensive end, but played 8 minutes in this game. We mentioned Boeheim, but the player who really struggled today, Mike, was Alan Griffin, who goes 0 for 4 on the day shooting the ball, 0 of 3 from three-point range, doesn't score. And this is the guy that had come in and been the leading scorer for Syracuse in terms of number of points. And, Jim Boeheim was saying at the press conference afterwards that Allen has got to shake it off when he's not playing well offensively, because there's much more to it. And especially when you play for Jim Boeheim, you got to play in that zone. And Griffin, not a good day today, just disinterested on defense, missing shots, and just a real frustrating day. His first real bad game, if you will, in a Syracuse uniform.
Yeah, like you said, he looked disinterested on defense. He came out real lethargic. He didn't look comfortable at all on offense or defense. I saw a blatant turnover there in the second half where he just threw it way past his teammate and it went out of bounds. So I'm not sure what he needs to do. Maybe he could have shot the ball more. He only shot 4 times. Who's to say if he was more aggressive, then maybe he would have caught a rhythm. I think the shots he did take, he took 3 threes. Maybe you cut 2 of those in half and you drive to the basket. But in order for the Orange to be at its best, you can't have a performance like this from Allen Griffin.
Just a couple more stats wanted to throw out there, Mike, because when you wade into the team stats department, it gets ugly in here. Everybody take a deep breath, particularly in the second half. So in the second half of this game, Syracuse shot 7 of 29. That's 24%. Northeastern was 7 of 21. That's 33%. These two teams combined to go 2 of 17 from 3-point range in the second half. Syracuse didn't make any, going 0 for 7. But the key stat, free throws matter, 16 of 18. Now, that's in the second half at the free throw line. Overall, Syracuse shot 19 of 60. That's 31%. Northeastern, which was hot from 3-point range early in the game, in the first half, they had 7 threes. They end up shooting 9 of 28 for the day from 3-point range. That's 32%. Syracuse, as you mentioned, Mike, 2 of 18 from 3-point range. Pretty ugly there, 11%. Overall, from the free throw line, 22 of 26. And just to look at a couple other stats here before we respond to some of your comments out there today, 21 turnovers on the day for Northeastern. So that's an encouraging note for Syracuse defensively. Syracuse only 8 assists on the day. That's something to note there, Mike, considering the ball movement was great on Saturday, not so much in this game. And Syracuse dominated points in the paint, 32-16. And I must have scrolled by it here because I wanted to see what the rebounding numbers were in this one. Here we go. Syracuse squeaks out Northeastern in the rebounding department, 37-36. So really, all told, Mike, you got to find different ways to win. And that's what Syracuse did in this one versus how they won the game Saturday.
Yeah, one more thing I wanted to point out was Joe Girard's knee must be made of steel. Tyson Walker took a blow sometime in the first half. He ran straight into Girard's knee, and he was down for a while, not moving. And then he unfortunately couldn't return to the game, and you could tell that really affected Northeastern. They looked pretty much out of whack once he exited the game. They didn't have any flow in their offense, but yeah, that was a big observation for me.
Yeah, and he's their best player. So you lose your best player. There was a couple other guys that were in rhythm, but you need all hands on deck if you're going to beat Syracuse, and momentum started to shift Syracuse's way. Something that Jim Boeheim brought up, Mike, in the postgame press conference, he was asked, circumstances of this game, 3:00 in the afternoon, middle of the week, scheduled quickly. Did that affect play? And Jim was pretty adamant that it didn't. He said absolutely not. Didn't affect anything. And he cited that they had 2 days of practice beforehand. I don't know if I agree with the Hall of Famer on that one. I mean, it was kind of weird, right? They usually don't play at 3:00 in the afternoon in the middle of the week unless it's a tournament setting. And if it is, you're prepared for that mentally. You kind of know going in. They threw a game out there, maybe against a team they thought they could go out there and have an easy day at the park. Syracuse was an 18.5-point favorite in this game. So if you had Northeastern plus 18.5, congratulations to you on that. I don't know if it was completely a non-factor, right? When you just kind of go out there and no fans in the dome, of course, you got to create your own energy. And when the shots aren't falling and it's dead quiet in the dome, I mean, it had to be a little bit of a factor, right?
Yeah, I definitely think it was a big factor in this game. That's like you and me, Brent. We're supposed to work every day, 9 to 5, quote unquote, in this industry. But that's like if we were just to wake up out of our bed and go play basketball. That's not routine for us. A 3:00 p.m. tip isn't routine for Syracuse. They're pretty much on the weekend, prime time. I really think that had a big effect on the energy coming out of this game.
I think it did too. Joe in the comments here says no excuses for game time. This team is just inconsistent again so far this year. Yeah, you're right about that, Joe. They start the year against Bryant after 12 days off because of a COVID delay and squeaked that one out, although that was a much higher scoring game than this one. Niagara and Ryder were easier days at the office. Boston College, this one a grinder. I would expect them to be inconsistent at this time of the year, considering what have they missed, Mike? Like 20 days of practice so far, which is, I mean, you go back and forth. They did win the game. It's going to be a win in the books one way or the other. But given the amount of times that Jim has cited practice time and the need for practice time, I wouldn't have been surprised if he just kind of let this week be, rest, relax, get in a rhythm, practice. But, it's always better to get out there and play in a game setting and see where your team's at there. So we've covered a lot of the offensive things here. Defensively, Jim even said it at the press conference, Mike, that, you got to throw away the Boston College game because too many things, and I'm paraphrasing here basically, but he said too many things went too easy for us in that game. Northeastern came ready to play defense. You got to give them that. They kept Syracuse off the boards at first. They were in people's faces, and it just threw Syracuse off rhythm enough that it took them until the middle part of the second half to really find anything.
Yeah. Defensively, Northeastern did a really good job containing Syracuse. One player I did want to point out was Mark Dolajai. I think they did a really good job on the inside on him. If he would have connected on some of those layups that he missed, maybe we're talking a different game, but they did a really good job containing the shooters, especially.
Just responding to a few comments here. I want to go back up here a second because I saw a good comment from Rob, who knows Northeastern is well coached. They were ready to generate and make open shots against our zone. Joe is back. Quincy's a beast. He says, I'm still amazed that Griffin and Buddy struggled the way that they did. It was a tough break for Northeastern, as you mentioned, Mike, when Tyson Walker got hurt. With Buddy and Griffin MIA, Walker's injury was the difference between a gritty 6-point win and an embarrassing 7 to 10-point loss. Good points there from Rob. Couple of you mentioning the game time was not an excuse. This team's just been inconsistent. Joe even notes, wouldn't be surprised if Syracuse loses to Buffalo on Saturday, and that they love the chuck and duck offense. Now, one thing about this game that I wonder if it was kind of an aberration or if the Boston College thing was more of an aberration. And that's the ball movement and the assists. Mike, this team has led the ACC in assists so far. It's young in the season, as we know. But their ball movement has been crisp. It's been good. It's been sharp. That wasn't really the case today, nor was the defense in rotating and getting where they needed to be. So you go from one extreme to the other. I guess what's the middle ground for Syracuse at this point? What kind of team do we feel we'll see more of is going to be interesting to follow.
Yeah, there was a lot of one-on-one ball today. And honestly, I don't think that's how Syracuse typically plays or how they'll play going forward. I think they do like you said, like to get the ball and have multiple passes. The only player I see really having that one-on-one type game is Alan Griffin, so to speak. And he just wasn't involved in the offense at all. So you would have thought we would have saw more passes today, but going forward, I definitely think we'll see more numbers in that assist total.
Yeah, Victoria notes here in the comments, they won against a good team with lackluster play. Brian notes in the comments here that UB won big over Miami, 90-62. How about that? Didn't see that until you mentioned that, Brian. And UB has come in the past couple of years. They beat Syracuse a couple of years ago. Of course, Nate Oates was in the news this week, Mike, the former coach at Buffalo, now at Alabama, taking shots at Coach K, and then Jim Boeheim taking shots at him. But bottom line, Buffalo's brought some good teams here to Syracuse in recent years, so we'll see how that goes on Saturday. Also here in the comments, Dan says, like the pressure, thought they should have kept it and shortened up the shot clock. So kind of looking at what kind of offense are they going to play and what kind of team they're going to be at this point. One other point I wanted to make, Mike, and I want to jump in the comments, or not in the comments, pardon me, in the stats here to kind of look at it, was a point about just to reemphasize free throw shooting. because Guerrier goes 6 of 9 at the line. Joe goes 9 of 9 at the line. Kadary Richmond goes 5 of 6 at the line. Woody Newton goes 2 of 2 at the line. So only 4 players get to the free throw line, and they made it work. They made it happen. If you are 75%, 80% or over, it really gets emphasized in games like this. So just to jump back to overall, Syracuse 22 of 26, 85% from the free throw line. It's going to make a big difference in a game like this. Syracuse fans have joked through the years, rightfully so, by the way, about Syracuse's lack of success at the free throw line. But for this game and today, that was not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I see Brian mention Kadary seems hesitant to shoot. Will that change? I'm glad he doesn't force it, though. I think that's a pretty good point to make. I think he's still figuring out his place in the offense. But where Kadary Richmond shines, we've seen it. It's on the defensive end. He had a really big block there in the second half. He blocked it out of bounds. And I think that's where we'll see the majority of his impact. He has the length of a 6'10" player.
He does.
So I think that's a good point that Brian brought up. And yeah.
Absolutely, Mike, because look, Joe had 6 steals today. I'm going to give Joe a little credit on the defensive end because people tend to knock his defense and fairly, to be honest. But he was jumping passes. He was getting after it today. You just said it. When Kadary Richmond's out there, that dude's 6'10" wingspan, 6'7" basketball player. He covers ground. He's athletic. That block that he had, that was a 2-on-1, and he completely shut it down. So what we saw in that second half at times was Joe, Buddy, and Kadary in the lineup at the same time. And then there were some other mix-ups lineup-wise. Jim had to go to the press, which he never wants to do. What did he say last week? They couldn't press a pair of pants. So they're always kind of in panic mode when they do that. But Kadary Richmond is finding just the right amount of time to get out there and make a difference. And you made a great point per the question from our comment section there, Mike, about Kadary doesn't force it. He even as a freshman kind of knows what his role is right now. And that's what I love about watching his game right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if he continues to excel in his role, then Syracuse would be just fine. So you've been a busy guy today, Mike, also on our football coverage team. It was signing day today for Syracuse football. Mike's been up probably since the rooster was crowing this morning at sunrise as the fax machine gets whirring early and however they send it in these days. I refuse to believe they still use the fax machine in this day and age of technology. But Syracuse football with a big day. Dino Baber spoke this afternoon, introducing that class of 2021, 20 new players for the Orange. And then we roll into basketball here this afternoon, a pretty busy day. So a lot of coverage already up on syracuse.com on all of this and certainly more to come. But Mike's got smoke coming off his fingers because he's been grinding all day, man. Yeah.
Covering both things.
You know what, Brent? I actually spoke to Deuce Chestnut earlier this morning, probably an hour after he signed his letter of intent. And I asked him, like, how are you guys submitting your letters?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, we just sign it, we take a picture, and we email it.
There you go.
It's that simple.
Glad to see we've caught up in the world of – I'm not the most technologically sound guy in the world. The fact that I can put even this together is a small miracle. But I always got a kick out of the old fax machine on signing day. Like the only time it's ever used was on football signing day. But now I guess RIP to the old fax machine there. So we'll see if Syracuse football gets a boost out of them. But basketball-wise, they will get at it again Saturday against Buffalo. That's a 6 o'clock tip time. That game's going to be on the ACC network. I know a lot of you are always asking what channel is the game on. 6 o'clock tip. It's going to be in the middle of the Bills game. So I might be a little distracted watching that Syracuse game in the first half. The Bills have, they're pretty much locked up a playoff spot in the division at this point. So, short of them just falling on their face against the Broncos, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to watch both at the same time. But that's when Mike and I will join you again. So 6 o'clock tip, about 8-ish or so. We'll hop on here live on Facebook, live on YouTube. But if you miss it, make sure you check out the YouTube in the Syracuse Orange Sports YouTube page. I always put it in my recap as well. That's when we'll join you again. Give Mike a little rest after a big day of writing on both football and basketball and much more to come on syracuse.com. Thank you, sir. Thanks for all your hard work today. And we'll hop back here Saturday night after the Orange take on Buffalo at the Dome.
No problem, Brent. Thanks once again for co-hosting this with me, and I'm looking forward to Saturday.
Looking forward to chatting with all of you again Saturday. Thanks for hanging out with us today. You enjoy the rest of your night and the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you once again after the Orange take on Buffalo.